What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and welcome to the Nootropics 20. We're going to talk about a lot of things over the course of the next 20 minutes. So stick with me because I've got a list of really cool nootropics and biohacking topics to cover. And I'm going to answer a lot of questions, and I think that's going to be pretty helpful for folks. Thanks so much yesterday for your guys' feedback on this new format. Again, I don't think it's something that we're going to do every day. It's just something to add more dense content into one sitting. We'll still do kind of individual videos about individual topics because some of them need expanding upon. Sponsors, what supports this program are a couple sponsors coming from us. They are products. Number one, we have a stack, a nootropic stack. It's called Cortex. Look, Cortex is a powerful stack. I took it yesterday for the first Nootropics 20. It was kind of on fire. Even thereafter, like for a good bit of the day, just makes your brain active, makes it very motivated, makes you very verbally fluent, even puts your mood in a better place. You can buy the Cortex stack at livecortex.com. Right now, there's a flash sale on it. Coupon code 25 gets you a bottle for 25 bucks. If you're looking to take your nootropics usage to the master class, to the elite level, if you want to be able to induce motivation, verbal fluency, brain fluidity, mood, memory, focus on cue, we built a course to teach you how to do that. It's called the Nootropics Masterclass. If you just want to talk to me and have me consult you on your stack formulation and your nootropics usage, we have a nootropics consulting service, a couple of them, and you can get those at livecortex.com. And if you're a man in need to raise testosterone, look, we've got a solution that works. I mean, it's changing dudes' lives. And by the way, testosterone and having it high is a game changer in your energy. It's also anti-aging and supports masculinity. I mean, there's nothing better you could do for yourself as a man than raise testosterone. Get the Viking Testosterone Protocol, which is a service we have for it, at livecortex.com. Okay, so thanks for sticking with me through the promotions. All the promotions support this free content. So a bunch of questions here that I want to address. The first one is, what diet best supports your cognition? So this was a question that came directly to me, but I guess I want to sort of talk about what generally might best support cognition and then kind of talk about my diet. Generally, what I think best supports cognition diet-wise is a balance of all the macros and making sure that basically you're eating foods that are nutrient dense. So balance the macros means, make sure you're having fat, carbs, and protein. Don't skimp on one or the other. A lot of these diets that omit either carbs or fat or protein or something sometimes might make a person feel good in the short term. Or sometimes you can extend that and have it be a long-term thing. But in a lot of cases, like on the keto diet, you're really just cranking up epinephrine and norepinephrine and using a bunch of fat, and that is a good thing for a period of time. It's really stressful on the body, and thereafter will start to fall off the bus. It's really terrible for your gut too, and mucus and tears and your thyroid glands, and your adrenal hormones and your testosterone if you're a man. So, just a balanced diet, beef, fish, chicken, right, as your protein sources. Tubers, man, regular potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, brown rice, yucca roots, vegetables, carrots, spinach, romaine lettuce, green leaf lettuce, tomatoes, just anything colorful, kind of put that in there. And then, leave room for cheat days. I mean, I don't eat like that all the time. I definitely have pizza sometimes, and I love it. The diet that best supports my cognition is I don't really eat until about 1 or 2 p.m. and that's usually after the gym. So I go to the gym fasted, but I eat right away after, and that's very critical. And usually it's a protein source with some carbs and some fat. It's basically a balanced meal. So it's, I'll make some salmon and then throw it in on top of some spaghetti that I make. And on the spaghetti, I'll put a bunch of butter and Parmesan cheese on it. That's what I'm doing lately. And I'm sort of kind of, and salt, and I'm sort of kind of getting everything there. I'm getting the carbohydrates, I'm getting the fat, the good fats via butter, and I'm getting just a super nutrient dense piece of protein with salmon. So, that's really what best supports my cognition. At nighttime, I'll do something similar. It'll usually just be like a piece of steak, like a good piece of steak. and then a vegetable or a tuber, and that's it. And then, a couple times a week, I just make a big salad for myself, or my girlfriend makes us salads, just to sort of have at some point during the day. And that's it. You're getting all your nutrients in, you're getting your vitamins in, you're balancing macronutrients, which is very, very critical for just general cognition and sustainable energy over time. So that's it. It's not rocket science. That's my take on it. Next question comes through about supplements. I think this is actually important. Several supplements that I have are past the expiration date. Are they safe? So let me just explain what the expiration date really means on a supplement. What the expiration date means is that they have to put them on there, first of all. So supplement manufacturers have to put expiration dates on them. So, usually, and what the industry has figured out is that a year or 2 years after the manufacture date is like some acceptable level of the the chemical, the nootropic in some cases, or whatever supplement you're taking, being okay. Thereafter, however, just because it's sort of a construct that had to be instituted. In other words, regulations have to be instituted, right? Boundaries or something have to be instituted. There has to be a date at which it's just like what makes the FDA happy and what makes the sort of regulatory system happy. You've got to have some sort of expiration date. Now, does it necessarily mean that the nootropic or the supplement in that case, of the case of supplements, is bad after the expiration date? Absolutely not. I've taken, NOOPEPT from 3 years ago. I've taken a B complex from years back. My girlfriend found I found at her place just a big thing of vitamin D that had to have been from many years ago, and just you open it up and it's 5K IU vitamin D gel tabs. It's totally fine. And I noticed the difference on my testosterone and erection quality when I dose vitamin D high. And so, that supplement was totally fine. So, you want to generally stick within 2 years of the manufacture date of the supplement. But after that, you're not going to run into a particular problem. I would say, look at the degradation of the material. If you've got some sort of discolored material inside of a capsule or something, then that could potentially be an issue. If you have tablets that are made with a bunch of other crap to make the tablet, like actual tablets, and they look discolored or there's spots on them, then definitely that's a problem, and I wouldn't take that. Phenylpiracetam for tinnitus, is it a good idea? Well, some people, okay, so look, there is a cholinergic activity inside of your ear, and so sometimes it either makes it better or it makes it worse. There's a lot of people that actually take racetams and it gives them tinnitus, and I believe that that's because of the excessive cholinergic activity that's happening inside their eardrums. The Chinese believe that tinnitus is a liver or kidney problem. It's your liver and your kidney telling you that there's some sort of filtering issue. So I would look into that if you're running into tinnitus. Otherwise, obviously, it's loud noises and whatever. I have a degree of tinnitus from being around bangs and booms in the army in Iraq. So whatever. But I would focus, if you have tinnitus, on the liver and the kidneys and try to clear that up and see if it helps. URIDINE, choline, and NOOPEPT, negative interaction between them. So this is what this person did, and this brings up a really good kind of example for folks. They were taking 300 milligrams of GPC, 300 milligrams of URIDINE, both of which were sublingual, 2 grams of tyrosine, also sublingual, and they had a good effect. Okay, so they had a good effect with that stack. Then they added 10 milligrams of NOOPEPT and got brain fog. Guys wondering why. So the answer to that question is maybe the tyrosine has something to do with it. I would probably try to remove that and then repeat the experiment. But more than likely, it's just cholinergic. It's just you've got too much of that chemical in your brain, and that's what these compounds are going to do. I would not be dosing alpha GPC at 300 milligrams in this case. I'd be dosing at 150. The URIDINE I'd also dose at 150. In this person's particular case. The NOOPEPT, if you were to try this again, I would take it down to 5 or 6 milligrams, and you got to be really careful on the scale to do that. Use a toothpick to get the powder out. Dump the powder on the scale. When it reaches 5 or 6, turn the scale off so it doesn't start changing and confusing you, because some of those cheaper scales will do that. and then add a B complex to that stack. I think that's going to make the stack a lot more sustainable and should not give you brain fog. You're just experiencing brain fog because your brain's making too much acetylcholine and you don't have anything to do with it. You know what I mean? It's just, there's nothing to do with it. Like you couldn't sit and do math enough in order to make that function better. And the brain has the brain notoriously has a bad response to too much cholinergic input, so you got to just be careful with that and dose that moderately. If you can't make that work, I think you can make it work, but if you can't, just remove the NOOPEPT and stick with the alpha GPC and uridine. That's a great combination. Add a B complex, add some krill oil, you'll be on your way. Guy asks, Huperzine A versus RACETAMS. He likes RACETAMS, but the availability basically in his country is a little bit scarce, so he's having a hard time. So he's asking, is Huperzine A comparable? I got focus and some memory with a couple of RACETAMs, so is Huperzine A comparable? The answer is comparable. Yes, I would say it's comparable. 80 to 100 micrograms, up to 200 micrograms if you can tolerate it of Huperzine A is pretty good for memory and focus. It's just really good. It's drastically different mechanisms, but you're sort of still talking about optimizing acetylcholine. All Huperzine A is doing is inhibiting an enzyme that recycles it. So it's an acetylcholine reuptake inhibitor, basically. And just sort of keeping more available acetylcholine to put to use in cholinergic pathways in the brain. And that'll help you focus and have better memory and all that kind of stuff. RACETAMs are doing different things. They're forcing acetylcholine to be released from the hippocampus, as an example. And some of them are increasing stimulation and then working memory via glutamate. Via AMPA. So yes, mechanistically they're different, but comparable in terms of effects, yes. I would say the major difference is, besides the mechanisms, is that you have to cycle Huperzine A lot more. Like, you really should not be taking it more than 2 days a week, and that's like my opinion on it. We'll talk about Huperzine A later because I had bad experience with it some time ago. But we'll get to that. Nootropics that speed up healing. That is a great question. Off the top of my head, I don't know that there are many nootropics that speed up healing. I think there's a couple chemicals that could be classified as nootropics in some people's perception that speed up healing. And they would be, number one, GOTU COLA. GOTU COLA should speed up healing because GOTU COLA improves collagen synthesis. Right, so collagen's like very critical in the process of healing. So yeah, if you want to speed up healing, I'd be dosing GOTU COLA at a moderate dose, whatever it suggests on the bottle, every day. As long as you don't get any kind of negative effects or feel tired from it, then that would be my suggestion on that. Red light therapy is critical for healing. It's just enhancing ATP. We talked about this yesterday, enhancing mitochondria, enhancing energy production and energy output from cells, which is going to facilitate blood flow and healing. But if there's one chemical that's probably the best that could be considered a nootropic that's like great for healing, it'd be BPC 157. That's a peptide. BPC 157 upregulates a bunch of growth factors, and this is something I don't think folks ever talk about, but it also modifies nitric oxide synthesis, and that's just going to foster blood flow to whatever area that you need. But it does so in a very hyper kind of way. So more blood flow, more growth factors around the area, and that's how you get healing. Your body's supposed to be doing this stuff naturally, but look, we age, whatever, some people's capacity to heal is, depending on their health state, is less. A lot of the folks that I've dealt with in a consulting capacity that have either adrenal fatigue or full-blown chronic fatigue syndrome, their wounds don't heal quick. They can cut themselves or have a wound and it does not heal quickly, and it's probably because of lack of growth factors and lack of blood flow in some of those cases. So that's what I would say. GOTU COLA for collagen synthesis, red light therapy for sure for healing, and then BPC 157. Simple question, best nootropic to retain information. Well, I'll talk about it from my experience. Oxiracetam helps my brain to slow down enough and to input information better so that I can retain information. So that's my first strategy there. I normally dose 500 or 600 milligrams of oxiracetam with citicoline at like 100 milligrams if I just want information retention. PRL 853 is one of the most powerful chemicals for that. I dose 5 milligrams of that sometimes by itself, sometimes with NOOPEPT at 5 milligrams, and that's a great combination. NOOPEPT by itself with a B complex and some krill oil is really, really good for memory retention if you can get your dose right. You know, folks struggle with NOOPEPT getting the dose right. It's like you have to titrate and you got to figure it out. Overall, for me personally, racetam is the best memory retention chemical on the planet. You know, for me personally, I mean, PRL is a close second, NOOPEPT's like right there, but you know, if I microdose racetam, I have pretty good memory. Or if I dose 500 to 600 milligrams of it with a small dose choline source, I have great memory. Alternatively, though, I can take racetam at like 175 milligrams of the B complex little choline, and that also gives me good memory, right? So it's really just like pick your strategy on nootropics. But that's mainly what you're looking at. For some people, racetam is going to be helpful for that, 5 to 15 milligrams, and for others, it's going to be like 2 to 3 grams of paracetam. Kind of all depends on how your brain responds to racetams. People's brains respond differently, and there definitely is something to say about certain racetams working better for certain people for certain things. And that just, you'll find that out based on experimentation. Next question: how much lion's mane should I take? Well, this person isn't asking how much lion's mane they should take based on what they want to achieve. So, you know, if you're looking to achieve nerve growth factor, upregulation of nerve growth factor, and thus kind of a better reference memory and a better long-term memory, then as long as you can tolerate it, meaning it doesn't give you any negative side effects or something, taking it acutely, then I would shoot for 500 milligrams of lion's mane. Take it 5 days a week. Take 2 days off for good measure. I'm not saying there's any side effects or anything that could happen from that, but I would take 2 days off it for good measure. A background 500 milligrams of lion's mane should be useful for that. I did many stints of experimentation with lion's mane, and I never really got any acute effects, maybe a little bit of energy. But what I inevitably or invariably noticed happening is I would wake up in the morning, and then when I was dreaming at night and then sometimes throughout the day, I would remember stuff from when I was like 11, just stuff I haven't thought about in, you know, obviously like 24 years or something. I just like have not thought about these things for a while, like skateboarding with my friends, very, very distinct details about the environment and kind of what I was seeing and smelling, and my senses were heightened looking at those memories. So that's kind of the benefit that I got from lion's mane. And I think, you know, that's pretty consistent with other people's experiences. Not so pleasant experiences with Huperzine A. I definitely have one, and it was the only bad experience I had because I learned my freaking lesson. Long time ago, when I was in year 3 or something, taking nootropics, I was working on my previous business in the beginning of it. It was like a startup company, and I was dosing paracetam, alpha-GPC, and Alcar to start with, and I really liked that combination. And it was like, oh man, that's what turned me on. I was like, man, nootropics are awesome. And I was kind of taking that on and off. I had messed with other racetams. MODAFINIL was scarce then, but I had gotten my hands on it and I was fussing with it. So I was fussing with a lot, but I hadn't taken Huperzine A other than 100 microgram tablet. And yeah, I got some pretty good memory from it. So one day I had Huperzine A powder from like Powder City back in the day. And instead of dosing it appropriately, I had just not understood the mechanisms like I do now, and like I did even like 2 days later after researching it. I took a water bottle, I took the cap off, and I filled the water bottle cap, with like half of it of Huperzine A. It must have been 1,000 or so micrograms of Huperzine A, which is ridiculous, right? The highest tolerable amount for most folks is like 300 micrograms. 1,000 micrograms, you're talking about inhibiting acetylcholine esterase so substantially and having way too much, way too much, the more it's unhealthy acetylcholine floating around the brain. I actually got what's called sludge syndrome, cholinergic sludge syndrome, which is where the body's got entirely too much of it. It actually could be lethal so if I were to take 3 of those half water bottle caps of Huperzine A, I don't know, I might have run into a really serious problem. I had a psychedelic experience. I could not go to sleep. It's like I was sleeping, I was like half sleeping and then half awake. It was very psychedelic. I could feel my body trying to sleep, but my brain was still working. It was like the weirdest thing ever. I was vomiting for about 2 or 3 hours. I was very weak. There was a point at which I was stuck in sleep but consciously awake, and I could not move my body. So I'm like sitting there trapped in my brain and couldn't move. And finally, I got out of that. I did not sleep really much at all. Restful sleep that night, and it was terrible. Since then, it taught me a lesson. I have been very, very modest with my doses on Huperzine A. I do not take it a whole lot. I haven't taken it probably in a month or two. I dose like 80 micrograms by itself sometimes if I just want a bump in memory that lasts a long time, and that's it. Then honestly, I won't take it again for another month or something. Allergic skin reactions to modafinil. Okay, this is an important point because this happens a lot to folks. Yeah, look, if that happens to you and you're getting rashes, it's histamine. Modafinil increases histamine. And I've not found a particularly better solution than to just take antihistamines. And I say that because we dealt with one particular consulting client in Canada, a business guy who really loved modafinil, but every time he took it, he got a skin reaction from it. And we're like, yeah, we tried a bunch of other things. We tried some dietary changes. Nothing really worked until he just went to the store and got an antihistamine, and then it cleared it up. I don't know after that whether or not it would stay cleared up. You might just have the histamine reaction forever, and that's not a great thing. So in that case, you probably want to just focus on figuring out a different nootropic strategy other than modafinil. Two more things. My stack today, because I think this is useful for folks, was 500 milligrams of Alcar, 100 of theacrine. I took a B complex like I do every day, double the dose of Antarctic krill oil, a cup of coffee, a big giant cup of coffee, so I don't know, 185, 200 milligrams caffeine, and then 400 milligrams RACETAM. Okay, so what this does and what this did to me is I feel super energized. My brain is awake. I slept pretty good last night, but my brain is awake. I have a larger reservoir to do work. So doing this video, writing this out, I just feel like I have a lot of energy. I'm going to go and edit this. I'm going to go to the gym. I feel good about that. I don't need a pre-workout. I'm not going to need a pre-workout because I'm my brain's working quick. That was my stack today. I like adding low-dose RACETAM to a mental energy stack because then it sort of makes me feel like I've got everything. I've got the mental energy and also have memory and focus alongside of that. I just feel like my brain's reservoir to intake information is a lot better, even with low-dose RACETAM at 400. So that's my stack today. Last thing before we end the Nootropics 20, you guys remember last week we talked about Lucas, who is an entrepreneur and a biohacker out of Australia that is launching a nootropic out of Australia. So this is really important, guys, because those of you that are in Australia and don't like to buy nootropics from the States because shipping tends to be a lot, or you do and you love stacks from the States but you kind of want an alternate, Lucas is launching a product called Brain X, and Brain X has uridine and a few other chemical compounds. I'll put the other chemicals in front of us here. Lucas is super smart. He's into naturopathy and general biohacking, so he puts things together that work for brain performance. I mean, the guy's like a genius. Anyway, we want to support this product launching, so go to brainx.me and just get on the email list to get notified of the product launch. They need to see that there are people interested in the product. They hope to launch it sometime by the summer or maybe perhaps in between. It's going to be an actual satchel, not capsules. It'll be like a satchel where you dump it in water or something and drink it. It's going to be a killer nootropic. So let's give Lucas support at brainx.me. And that is it. Thanks so much for sticking with me. It's been a pleasure being with you through the Nootropics 20. Comment more if you guys are into it. A lot of you did yesterday, and that was great. But also, if you're not into it, if it's too long form, let me know. I'd like to hear kind of every bit of your guys' feedback on this. And that's that. Sponsors, look, the Cortex stack right now, we're running a flash sale because we got about 200 bottles of it to get rid of. At $25 a bottle. Just use the coupon code 25, just the numbers 2 and then 5 at livecortex.com, and that'll take Cortex down to $25 a bottle. That is so cheap and a perfect price point for a well-balanced, energizing, motivation-inducing, verbal fluency facilitating stack. Cortex is awesome. I mean, we built it for entrepreneurs, like people that need to have a high workload. So get that at livecortex.com. The Nootropics Masterclass is our most successful digital product ever. It's a class where we teach you how to induce brain states on cue with nootropics, but also there's a lot of philosophical and methodological and strategic elements infused into the course. And this is the kind of stuff that has taken me a decade and 2 years, 12 years total to learn how to do. I'm teaching it to you in a video course. It's called the Nootropics Masterclass. Get that at livecortex.com. Some of you guys confused on nootropics and figuring out how to make your stacks work really well. if you don't want to do the Nootropics Masterclass, which will solve that problem, you could also do a consult with me, and you and I can talk about it. I can give you suggestions, and we can work via email to fix your stacks and make your brain perform better from nootropics. Get the consulting service at livecortex.com. Last thing, if you're a guy, you guys know the deal. Raising testosterone changed my life, man. It changed my sex drive. It changed my morning erections. It changed how I feel in the gym. It changed how I recover. It changes how I sleep. It changes my focus throughout the day. I took a long time to build a protocol that's highly effective for raising testosterone. It's called the Viking Testosterone Protocol, and you can get that at livecortex.com. All right, thanks so much for watching, everybody. This has been another edition of the Nootropics 20, and we'll talk to you next time.